Computer's a little slow.
No problem.
Okay, we're here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Slim Nation One-on-Ones podcast. I'm Slim Overton, of course, and I'm here with Lee Deer. And Lee, I'm gonna have to ask you about that last name. You know, it has to be an origin about that. I'm assuming that's your given name. That's not something. You know, you're not a rapper or something where I'm Lee Deer
No,
and I'm here. So you
no.
can so you can talk about that. But yeah, welcome everybody to, as I said, the Slim Nation One-on-One podcast. And I ran into Lee at a meeting. I'm on committee with the health department, citizens committee, and we meet quarterly. And this last meeting we had, I ran into Lee there, and during the discussion, I said, okay, he has some good things to say. I might want to talk to this brother further, and have him on the show and let him talk a little bit about what he does, especially his business. He has a mobile photo lab business. So first, we want to go there, Lee. Well, now before we get there, Lee, we're here in Portsmouth and in Hampton Roads, and maybe you can let us know what brought you. You're not from here originally. What brought you to Hampton Roads? I can almost most people gonna recognize the answer, but what brought you here?
So yes, I'm Lee Deer, and yes, that is my original name. I'm not a rapper or artist, anything like that. I can't do that. I'm not that good at that. But I'm the military. I was in the army, and after got medically retired from the army, I stayed in Virginia Beach for a while, and right before COVID, I decided to buy a house here in Portsmouth, and I didn't realize how amazing this city was at the time, and I heard all the stuff that everybody was talking about Portsmouth. Um, but it was just that gut feeling that it was something else. It's something about the city, and I remember my dad came and visited me when visited my son and I, and stayed for about a week or so, and it was. He said it kind of has that small town feel, and
Yeah,
because we just sat out on the porch and waved at people we didn't really know at the time, as they drove by, and everybody waved back. And one of the other things I heard, a lot of other people were telling me, just when you go, some of the other cities in our area, when you go there and you wave at people or say hello, nobody really speaks to you.
mm,
Everybody's kind of got in their own zone, and they just kind of keep walking and all that stuff. But nobody really kind of speaks to you. But here in Portsmouth, you know, quite a few people, that people recognize you. You're recognized. You talk, and it doesn't matter. That's one of the things that I really like. So the military brought me here. That saying, I'm not from here, but I got here as fast as I could.
that's what I
That
could. Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, and that's why I said, your answer was probably going to be familiar to a lot of people because that's how a lot of people end up here. And you're originally from Tennessee, and tell
Yeah,
people what part of Tennessee you're from.
I'm originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Chattanooga,
I grew up.
Chattanooga Choo.
That's right. That's right. That's right. There's a lot of similarities between Chattanooga and Portsmouth, but Chattanooga, I grew up there, and it was a, it was an interesting time. I love the city and all of that stuff. But at 18, I left and I went to I moved to Atlanta and did a lot of stuff. Did
The
a lot
big
of
city.
and it was a different Atlanta than it is today. But
Yeah.
back then. But I started working a little bit in trying to get into the music industry and working with some entertainers and promoters and stuff like that. And I also did security. I did a little bit of everything, but I learned a lot in Atlanta. And I learned a lot. Got to network and work. I guess I was born. I was born and raised in Chattanooga, but I truly grew up in Atlanta. I got to experience a whole lot of stuff, and it was real fun. I enjoyed those times, you know, and got to work and meet with some really great people. And opened my first music studio there with some partners there. And when I was there in Atlanta, and I thought we thought we were going to do big things. We survived, but I finally decided after a while. I did sold cars for a while, did security, did a whole bunch of other things,
Mhm.
but I finally decided, you know what, I got to go out here and I got to go out here and adult, and so I joined the army, and
Yeah.
I joined the army from there, and we're here now.
Yeah, but those experiences, like going from Chattanooga to Atlanta, and Atlanta is a much bigger city now, but it was bigger than Chattanooga. And what a
Right.
place to grow up and get your feet wet and learn some things, learn people, and learn. You know, growing up in life is about achieving and failures and learning how to adopt to that, because it's going to be like that in life. So that was a good experience for you, and probably when you decide, okay, this is not working, let me go into the military and get something stable. But those things you learned in Atlanta, even though it didn't turn out exactly like you wanted to, probably help shape you, along with the military experience to the person you are today. You
The
have to
interesting,
go ahead. Go ahead.
the interesting thing is exactly what you said I was trying to be a little brief on it, but yeah, exactly when I got to the I did video production while I was there in Atlanta. I did audio production, all that good stuff. But when I got to the army, and my idea is, all right, I'm gonna leave all of that stuff behind, and I'm gonna just focus on my job in the army, which was in transportation. And I said, okay, I'm gonna focus on transportation and get into this logistics stuff. Well, I did, did basic training, went through, but I got deployed. And when I got deployed, I was 2 weeks in country, and my whole right side went numb.
Wow.
They they didn't know what it was, but that's my right side. I kind of
Hmm.
need that one, So I got pulled off of the missions. I couldn't really do a whole lot, but and my job was basically we were my company. We were in charge of the central shipping and receiving point.
Hmm.
So we loaded up the stuff that was coming in and out, and I was there doing Operation Drawdown, which when meaning that when a lot of the stuff in Iraq was shutting down, and we were closing
Hmm.
down different bases and stuff around there, and so my company, I wasn't able to operate. They didn't want me operating too much because they didn't know what it was. They were like, we can send you back, or you can stay with your unit. I said, I'm gonna stay. I'm an Army guy. I didn't, but
Yeah.
I said I'm gonna stay, and I stayed, and I started producing videos. I went back to that same thing, my passion of producing videos, and I ended up documenting our entire deployment. And I made a weekly show while I was deployed. My command team was amazing, and they allowed me to create a weekly show. So every week I was producing Warrior Pride TV, and so I hosted it, and I would go around and capture all the different things the people in my unit were doing, the different soldiers and stuff like that were doing, and we'd send the videos back home so the families could see what their soldiers were doing. So everything I learned in Atlanta, I carried it on. Literally, I ended up, when we came back to the States, my I worked with my unit a little bit, and then I got medically retired from the Army. Turns out I got diagnosed with MS
Oh,
once they
wow.
found out what was going. Yes, sir. So, but even that, once again, you know, it's it's a even being having that diagnosis and all that stuff. It's the attitude, and how you approach it. Whatever it is, when with each one of those challenges, with every challenge that's given and all that stuff, how we handle it is important. That's one of the things I also learned. So getting back to the point of the things I learned in Atlanta, I didn't even really recognize how it impacted me until just sitting back and looking back and reminiscing on it and thinking about not just that, my military experience, but taking each one of those little nuggets and all those things like you were talking about in life and building
Hmm.
on it and working with it.
Yeah, and oftentimes we don't think about the things that we do early in life, even the mistakes and things like that made, even the heartbreaks or whatever we go through, how that follows us through life. And even when we're not thinking about it, it's something something comes up later in life that we react to only because we experienced it early in life, but we don't think about it until you sit back, like you said, and say, wow, I handled that because of what I dealt with in Atlanta. But I want to ask you, when you got the diagnosis for MS, how did you process that? I mean, because it's different degrees of it, where it can really strike you down, or talk about that. How did you process that? Because that's something, you know, and I'm familiar with getting a diagnosis like that. That sort of seems like it comes out of nowhere. I mean, you're not feeling right, but not to that extent. So I'll let you
Right.
explain how did you process that.
So when it's interesting. So after the deployment, we came back and I was doing a whole lot of medical tests and a whole lot of exams and stuff like that. Um, I was going to the hospital, on a regular basis and all that stuff, getting checked
Mhm.
out. And I remember it. And I was over here I was stationed in Fort Story out in Virginia Beach, but I was
Okay.
actually diagnosed here at Portsmouth Naval Medical Center.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
was one of the hospitals I was going to get a lot of checks and stuff like that at. So while and I'll never forget when I was in the room and all that stuff, and the doctor had his intern, and they came in. They were real quiet and soft, and he was like, "Mr. Deere, there's no easy way to say it. You have MS."
Mhm.
I took a deep breath, looked down, looked up, and said, "Can I have syphilis instead?" and, and the doctor didn't know, he didn't know, because people
He
have
didn't know
all sorts
whether
of other reasons.
to laugh or what.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And I told him, I understand. And I was saying, I don't know a lot about MS right now. I was like, give me a minute. I will. But I don't know a lot about
Mhm.
MS right now. But I know that you didn't tell me that I got a week to live. You didn't tell me that you didn't give me a death sentence.
Right.
I didn't hear it as a death sentence. I heard it as an opportunity to stop making excuses, an opportunity to get up and do and actually, if I didn't already have, if I didn't have the motivation to get up and do and do it, I felt it as more as a kick in the pants. It's like, stop making excuses, get up and do something. This is, it's not, the more I research and the more I learned tons of other. There's quite a few people, and like you said, there's some people that have it a whole lot worse. And
Mhm.
and I'm great. I'm there's a lot of people that have it a whole lot worse than I do. My experience with MS, um, mine is controlled with medication,
Mhm.
but I eventually I kind of focused heavier on some of the other alternatives and tried to make it better. Trying to eat better,
Mhm.
rest, and try to take care of myself more holistically, and exercise. Got to stay active and all that stuff, and as much as possible. Some days it's just not, some days are worse than others, and it's
Yeah,
one of those. MS is definitely one of those things where it's you know people don't know you have it, and then it's like, oh, you're fine. You can get up. You can keep pushing. Today's not one of those days. Some days it's just not. No, today's not one of those days where I can keep going. It's in everybody's best interest that I take a break today. So really listening to your body and understanding what what you need to help. And also working with your medical providers and working with them. But in all honesty, I fortunately, right now, everything is controlled and it's all stable, and it's been stable for quite a few years now, and I'm grateful for that. I've been trying to, I've been active, and not as active. I got married recently. I got married last year. My anniversary is coming up.
oh, congratulations.
Thank you. But so there's I'm moving forward with life, and I'm not letting that diagnosis, not letting those diagnoses and those setbacks, and that's a major setback. That's a major lifestyle change.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
That happens, but working around it, keeping continuing to move forward, not letting that hold you back, and getting up and moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's so important also to be able to talk about it. A lot of times people will have illnesses and they keep it to themselves, and then something happens and people say, "I had no idea." But talking about it is I always use this term, is therapeutic for the person that's dealing with it, and you might help other people that are going through it. Like I said, it's different degrees of it, and isn't it amazing how one of the remedies for feeling better is what your body expects you to do: get rest and have
Exactly.
a proper diet. I mean, that's one of the biggest things you can do for your body, and that's all the body is asking you to do. Now, other times, along with prescriptions you might need to help you, with the disease. But it's great. So I'm glad, you're handling it that way, and and talking about it for another thing, and probably being involved with the organizations that deal with that. That's something special.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So.
I want to go to your business. I saw where bringing the studio to you, and we're going to talk more after this podcast, because I'm gonna have to get some get some tips from you, or find out what you might be able to do to help improve my podcast. But what you do, talk a little bit about, I've heard of the mobile, where the guys in the mobile go around and watch cars, or they go around and do certain things. But the mobile photo lab, now is that, well, you can explain what exactly that is. I saw a little bit about it, but I'll let you explain.
So Mobile Photo Lab, we one of the things I've been doing photography and videography for quite a while, like I was saying there. But one of the things I noticed I wanted to create more of an experience with
Mm-hmm.
photography. And the thing that really kind of got me into photography all the way around was the actual printed photos. Growing up,
Yeah.
my I remember my parents' house and my aunt's house. I remember when I would walk in, and just like with your picture, there was my whole entire family tree on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My aunt could tell me how you were related to that person right there, and then how you were related to them, and all this other stuff. She could give you the whole rundown of your entire family tree, or and about the actual. And it's something about that print to me, and that stuck out to me, and it's always been with me. And when I was in the military, I noticed I would go to friends' houses and stuff like that. And with military, people move and don't have time to put up pictures and all this other stuff. But I realized that's something that connection is not there, and people weren't actually they weren't printing out their photos as much, and we have tons of memories in our phones, and we can swipe and we can get to them whenever we need to, and that's awesome. But at the same time, it's nothing like when you walk past that picture of 3 years ago and realize that used to be me, but that's
Yeah.
not. I've grown. When my now 10-year-old son looks at the refrigerator and sees those pictures, or looks at the wall and sees those pictures of, whoa, I grew up, and I'm getting taller, or I remember. It's like, do you remember that? And and seeing those experiences and having those experiences. And so the idea of actually having the prints has always been a major thing for me. So Moble Photo Lab, I decided to bring the prints to you. So in different situations, we can print on demand. Some situations still require a little bit of editing, so you may not get them right there on the spot. But we do a lot of events in the city where we try to make that the print on demand direct thing. We also provide digitals on the spot, but we do a lot of events throughout the city. We also do individual photo shoots and headshots and corporate events and stuff like that. So we still provide the digital stuff, but to me, the passion behind everything and the reason why I do what I do, I really enjoy seeing those prints. I really enjoy physically, after I take a picture or whatever, looking at that image that I just captured. And really, that to me, that's important.
I really appreciate my parents. The whole time I was raised as an only child, but the whole time I was growing up, they always took pictures, and to be able to go back and look at those pictures and remember uh, certain events, or certain times, or just a time when it was just me, you know,
Yes, sir.
uh, and it's nothing like it. And all through my house here, I have pictures of my granddaughter, my daughter, and my parents, and things that my wife and I went to. So I'm like you. I like those printed photos. I remember, and you might not remember this, but we had those wallets that had when somebody wanted to show you
Picture.
their family, they take that wallet out and a whole line.
I do remember that
And
because my parents,
you
and I love it.
you had to stand there and say, "This is so and so," but nothing was like you mentioned earlier with your going with your grandmama's or to the house and being able to put a face to those stories that you might have heard about certain people in your family that you never got a chance to meet. But this is Uncle so and so, and he used to be with the Buffalo Soldiers. I mean, things like that. And you never met them, but you have a picture of them, and you say, "Wow, they favorite." So yeah, that's real important. So the videos you do around the city, because I go out, I'm considered amateur. I go out in certain events I go to. I like to film it, for me, and I show on my page or my channel or something like that. And I see all the other professional guys around, and I say, okay, don't let me get in their way. But I just do it for my own gratification and just to, let people know that might not be there. You know, Sometime I go live, so if they can't make like Sunset Thursdays, a lot of times
Right.
a certain group might be there, and I'll take my little camera and film that, and I see people popping up that can't make it that are home, watching. So that presents a certain pleasure for me. So you offer these things, and are you actually contracted with the city, or
So
you just
some of the projects I do, some of the projects I do. The city does pay me for them, and I'm grateful for
mm,
that. Definitely grateful for that. But a lot, what I was noticing, and like you were saying, capturing someone and telling those other stories, um, I realized that some of those stories aren't being told. That some of those other things that are happening in the city,
Right.
So right now, the Good News Sportsmith channel. Unfortunately, we just experienced Peace Week, and that was amazing.
Right.
I did get contracted by Portsmouth United to capture and tell those stories and all that stuff, which that
Yeah.
was
I
great. And
had Brother Copeland on here an interview before for Peace
oh
Week.
yeah,
Yeah, it's very
he's
involved.
awesome.
Yes.
Yes, and that his organization is amazing. And
Yeah.
so
But that was a great event.
Oh yes, it was great. And so that's one of the things that right now a lot of the Good News Sportsmith the things on the Good News Sportsmith channel, a lot of them are focused from those events. And there's more to come. There's a lot of edits that still have to happen, but there's a lot of events that I was able to capture and go around the city and showcase. And I realized that there's a need, especially here. We gotta change the narrative. A lot
Right.
of people, hear about, and if you only have the some of the news channels and things like that, if you're only focused on that, and that's your only source of finding out, you don't know about all the amazing things. You don't know about Brother Copeland. You don't know about, a purpose driven. You don't know about
Big
all
homies.
these exactly big homies. Exactly. There's so many other organizations, and even like Portsmouth United. The thing I like about and Portsmouth, for the people that don't know, Portsmouth United, it's it was it's it came from the police department received a grant, and instead of the Portsmouth Police Department received a grant from the Department of Justice, I believe, and they were tasked with instead of buying guns, instead of buying new police gear and stuff like that, they were tasked to get community nonviolent, to get nonprofits, and I don't want to butcher it, so I don't want to butcher the explanation. So definitely go to Portsmouth United on the website to verify everything I'm saying. But
Right.
they basically started working with nonprofits and violence, and they're setting up a violence interrupter program. There was a study, crime prevention study that was done, and there was a task force that was formed to actually come up with a better way to address the violence and stuff like that in the community. So these nonprofits and the people that are actually boots on the ground doing the work in this city, and it's a lot of them. So Portsmouth United, it's a group, and where everybody got together and they're working to build it. Miss Matthews, she is leading the charge alongside of right there with the police captain. She has a team of people that are dedicated to really improving a lot of stuff that's happening in the city and doing it. And they offer so much more than just the programs in this part of the grant. And the grant funding just went live again today. They also have a faith-based portion for the grant as well. So that just went live today for all your viewers as well. So if they have a nonprofit organization, definitely want to look into it because want to work with improving the crime and preventing and different. They're taking a holistic approach to it, and that's the thing that I really like. They're not just taking they're not just approaching it from just trying to create after-school programs. There's violence interrupters that they're going to have set up to actually talk to the people that afterwards. They actually have a relocation program after a crime has been committed. They have a program that they can work with the victims and all that stuff, and the families. And it's so many things that's happening that's improving our city. And one of the things that I think normally spring break is normally a pretty violent time in the city.
Yeah, they have nothing to do, and sometimes the crimes are a crime of opportunity. don't intend to do something, but they don't have anything to do, and they see something, say, "Well, let's do this." But that week gave them had their had their calendar full. The youth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There were lots of different things, and that was a great opportunity in Peace Week. Like I said, a Purpose Driven Carlson, they
Yeah.
came up with that whole idea. And I know there were other people involved as well, but with the original idea, and it's developed into this where the whole city is now involved. And it was an amazing week, and there's more to come. I actually just came from a meeting with them as well, with Portsmouth United, and it was amazing. It was an amazing. We kind of recapped a lot of the stuff that happened during that week, and talking about what's next and what we're doing,
Yeah.
what's coming, what's moving forward. So I'm excited about
Yeah.
that.
What's next has to happen right after the event, because you can't slow down because the crime is and whatever is going on is still there. So that's important. Those events to capture them on print and film, and get the word out. Just like at the meeting with the health department, one of
Right.
the issues we talked to them about is getting the word out about what the actually health department does, especially when they're trying to cut a lot of their funds and what they can do, but they're still doing yeoman's work. And the word needs to get out there because a lot of people are not taking advantage of what they have to offer, and a lot of it, I think all the services are free, and some people that qualify, and especially a lot of the elderly, just think about the health department in one way and don't realize all the different opportunities that are presented by the health department. So hopefully, with you being there and everybody, all of us, and they're accepting, us being able to highlight what they do, you know, that people can take advantage of it. So yeah, thanks
And
what
one
you
of the
do
things,
as far as that. Go ahead.
one of
I'm
the things
sorry. Go
that
ahead.
no worries. So the city's public affairs department, they do a lot of great work, and
Yeah,
it's and but it gets lost, I believe, and they have it on some of the other channels and stuff like that. I believe
but
it gets
everybody doesn't
lost,
have access to that.
and
You
I
know,
believe they don't. And it's one thing with. I follow the Portsmouth YouTube page as well,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I look at those pages. But a lot of people, I think it gets lost. It loses a little bit in that delivery side of it. So on a podcast such as yours and this great platform, I think we could using these platforms like yours and really kind of telling the story from just a one-on-one stance and all that stuff. I think that's a
yeah.
very important thing. It's a very important tool.
Yeah, I encourage other people to do it as well because everybody has a certain amount of people that's going to tune in. And just like we put this on our YouTube channel and it just goes, and people outside of Hampton Roads are exposed to it, especially people that used to live here. They look forward to
Right.
keeping up with what's going on in their city. So, yeah. And like I said, I encourage everybody, if you have the time and the opportunity to, to do these things because you know, Portsmouth is a great place, and often, just like we have to control the narrative, and not controlling the narrative where we're telling lies, but we're telling the truth about what really goes on. We all are having
So
problems with crime, and things like that. But to offset a lot of that, we have some students that are doing great things. We have some uh, adults that are doing great things. We have groups and organizations that are putting in a lot of time to make sure those disadvantaged people or people that just might need the information so they'll know where to
exactly.
go. Yeah. So I appreciate
So
what you're doing.
thank you. A lot of that stuff is on Good News Portsmouth. Like you can go to goodnewsportsmouth.com and it'll take you right to the YouTube page where you can watch some of those videos of from Peace Week and look at some of the other things. And I'm looking. I'm in the we're planning for the summer, and there's a lot of really good things that are coming up in the summer, and I look forward to expanding and working with a lot of other people as well. So I'm really excited about what's coming.
Yeah, and I want to get to your book now. And when I read the title, because on our other show, Portsmouth Coffee Talk, over the years we have talked a lot about mental health and the stigma in the African American communities. You know, where and we even bring in a professor from Norfolk State, Dr. Ernestine Duncan, who is in the Department of Psychology. And so we don't just be overstepping our bounds talking about mental health. We bring an expert in there to talk about it. But, you know, the stigma, you know, and we talked about how, you know, growing up in these Black communities, we had people in our communities we knew that had issues, but nobody really talked about it. And it nowadays you hear people talk about going to therapy, you know, and getting help for certain things. You don't have to be running around crazy. You know, just dealing with life sometimes you need to, you know, sit back and assess, am I mentally able to handle this? You know, and sometimes people don't take that time. So talk about your book. You know, when I saw that, I got kind of excited. I was already excited about all the other things, but you know, I've been writing a book for 20 years and I still can't get to the end of it. But I appreciate people that wrote books. So tell me about the book and why you decided to write it and how you associated with the mental health part. It's just something, you know, personal or something that you just happen to be aware of.
So it is well. So going through this process, we talked a lot about the good. We talked about the good side of how, you know, how I was able to overcome the MS and all that stuff. You know, there
Yeah,
were some
yeah.
dark days. There were some
Oh
dark days,
yeah,
and
I'm sure.
then there was, you know, there was another divorce in the situation. You know, there was a divorce in the situation, and not another. We're not doing it. I'm not doing that again. But there was a divorce in the situation.
Yeah,
There was a divorce in the
been there
situation.
too.
There's a whole lot. Right. There was you know, so, you know, and like you said, there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And for me, I had you know, I made a lot of, you know, I've been fortunate to make a lot of money, and then I've been fortunate, and I, and I don't know what you want to call it, but I've lost a lot of money as well. So,
Yeah,
you know, so we've had, you know, you know, I've experienced a lot, you know, a lot of ups and downs financially, and it'll take a toll on you.
hmm
And sometimes finding that self-worth, you know, I'm confident. I've gone through some things, so I know who I am now, you know, and I'm grateful. But you can still, and I'm not saying that, you know, and you can still lose yourself sometimes. But
right, right.
being able to, being able to address the fact that that the book kind of came about where I was trying to figure it out. I knew I was stuck. I was stuck. I was in a rut. I didn't know. I knew I couldn't stay there, but I couldn't move. Some of it, I was told that some of it may have been some, you know, could be part of the MS because it affects your brain and stuff like that.
hmm
The medications and all that stuff. I knew I was in a rut. I didn't know what to do, so I started writing. Started writing stuff down, writing it down because I couldn't express it. I wasn't able to articulate it the way it needed to be articulated. I don't mind talking, but I wasn't able to articulate it in a way. So I just started writing, and I ended up using a little bit. I did use this was I used a little bit to make sure that I kind of checked some of the stuff. I did use a little bit of AI to help me enhance it. So and well,
Right,
not necessarily just enhance it, but to actually put some factual stuff in there to make sure that I'm not off the rails because I don't want to mislead anybody on a mental health journey, like you said. Um,
right.
and but I can tell my story. I can tell my experience, and I felt stuck, and I didn't the best way I think in the beginning of the book, if I remember correctly, I described it. when you're stuck on a dark road and you don't know what to do, you got to find it. It's like, how do you pull yourself out of that? Sometimes you can't just do it by yourself. You need to go out and find some help. You need to you need to, you need to reach out, because especially when you're starting to travel down that dark road, you got to find something. You need a light. You need somebody, something to help pull you and help guide you away. And for me, I had to find that, and I'm a pretty resilient person. Like I said, I'll get bad news and I'll keep it moving. It's like, okay, well, what's the positive spin? But it just I wasn't able to spin it. I wasn't able to do that in that situation. And I started writing about it and started talking about it. And and even doing so, and once I released the book, I even learned, my dad even came to me and told me about some of the stuff some of the things that he's experienced. So
Wow.
it's something that we all experience. We just don't like to talk about it. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I did it was one of those, hey, I just got to put it out there. And I'm grateful I did. And I'm grateful
Open
that,
up people around, open up people around you. Just like you said, your dad came to you, and some of those things he might not ever share with you if you hadn't shared first. And that's just the importance of it. People just knowing and say, I had that same experience, or this is what I went through too, son. And it probably helped him being able to talk about some of the things that he had experienced, because so often we try to put everything we try, especially men will do this, try to hold it all in and say, because I feel like I have a certain responsibility. I have to be the head of the household. I have to show strength and not vulnerability. And it's nothing wrong with showing that vulnerability, because we're human, along with being men. Before we're men, we're born, we're human. And anything can affect a human. And, the man part just comes on as we just hear about, we have to act a certain way and not show vulnerability. And writing that book probably did it for you, and just like you said, finding out you have MS, and you say, okay, could I have, could I have syphilis? I mean, something I know about, something that I know is treatment out there.
Right, a little
Not
penicillin would
MS,
be all right.
all I know about that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yes. So the book, it's great. So how can people get the book? Because I'm definitely going to look for it and get it, because I love books. I love to read books, especially from local artists, authors rather.
That website is getmovingagain.com.
Oh,
My wife gets on me all the time. It's called Get Moving Again. You can go to getmovingagain.com, and that one, and you'll see the link to Amazon to get it on, purchase it through Amazon. Um, but that one, and I'll verify and make sure that I'll verify that everything is we're but that is I'll buy. I like technology, so if I have an idea, one of the first things I do is I go buy the domain name.
yeah.
So I got a whole lot of domain names. I probably, my wife, she gets on me and she's like, "Oh no, don't buy another domain name."
That's the best way to find, what you're really looking for. Just go to the domain, it cuts out a whole lot of unnecessary searching. You got the domain name, you just give that out. People can go straight to it.
Exactly.
But I guess
And one of the,
at some point you might can have too many, huh? As far as your wife is concerned.
so and it's interesting. So my son, my 10-year-old son, when during COVID, before COVID, he's homeschooled already. He was already homeschooled,
Mhm.
and my goal was to teach him how to talk to people, how to be able to do things and stuff like that. And so we started a YouTube channel for him as well.
Mm.
And this was before he's 10 now. But and I bought a domain name for that. Learn with Lee. You can go to learnwithlee.org. Like I said, I got a domain name for everything almost. But learnwithlee.org, and basically we kind of I would take him and we go and interview people. And he wrote a book as well called Trucks That Help. This was and because being homeschooled, creating the curriculum and all that stuff, and trying to make sure that he still knew how to interact and work with people and all that stuff, and do a lot of and think outside the box. So I was like, hey, let's create I got tired of him asking me about other YouTubers and stuff like that, and I was like, you know what? Let's make a YouTube channel with kids, for kids that look like you. Let's tell your story. And we went and so we got some of our ventures out there when we were in Virginia Beach, and we're definitely he's working on his preteen version of it now.
Okay. Yeah. So hey, and we're going to wind down now. But since you mentioned the domain name, how tell people how important it is to have that. If you're doing something like you're doing, it's really important to have that to sort of protect, what you're doing.
Yes. So one of the when I start a new project or whatever, the domain name is I won't say that's being able to follow through and provide whatever it is you're doing, that's important. But your domain name and owning your own domain name is extremely important, because some of the platforms, their rules may change, things may happen, but if you own that domain name, you have control over your message and what you're putting out. Now, they are, and true, building a website, you'll notice on a lot of the websites, on a lot of the ones that I did, on my son's learnwithlee.org, and also even on the Good News Sportsmith, when you go to goodnewsportsmith.com or learnwithlee.org, it'll take you to the YouTube page. Because I actually bought that domain name, I can redirect that to another website. Mm-hmm. I can change that up. And it makes it easy for me to say, hey, just go to this, and if something changes or I need to update something, I can simply change it in the back end, and you don't have to remember anything new. It's the same thing. So that is one of the key ways to tell your story and to get your information out there. If you of controlling the narrative. So having a domain name is extremely important. And a lot of times, you can get a domain name. I recommend, you can get them on certain sites for as little as $1, $2, or something like that. Some of them you don't have. You have to watch that, because you want one where you have control over if you decide to leave that hosting company or whatever. So you want to watch that a little bit, but but for the most part, you can spend $12 to $20 and you have control over it, and you can point people in the direction of where you're going. So from a business standpoint, and you would hate to have to create $1 million idea. One of the things if you look at MARTA.com. In Atlanta, there's the Metro Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority. But MARTA.com, the last time I checked, and it's been a while since I checked, but MARTA.com was owned by somebody else. They didn't want to sell the name. So MARTA had to come up with, their marketing department had to come up with It's Smarter or something like that .com as a domain name. So that person gets millions of views probably just from people going to MARTA.com looking for. Unfortunately they're not Uh, they're not a transportation company, but you know, but just owning that domain name. Once you got control of that domain name, you would definitely, if you created $1 million company or a brand that's big, you want to own the domain name. You want to own the rights to. You don't want somebody to come up and try to pull the carpet, or your competitor to come and try to pull the carpet out from under you and all that stuff, or point them into their name. And so getting your domain name is, if you got an idea out there, if you got something that you're working on and you got a solid name, buy the domain name. The other good thing about it, it helps with your trademark as well. If you're ever in a situation where you have to determine, have to argue that you were the first person with that idea or with that brand, you can always go back and say, hey, no, I registered this domain name on this day. So
Yeah.
it does give you it gives you a little bit of legal standing, and it's a lot more affordable than a trademark. But there's other rules and stuff like that out there, other things that can help out with that too. But it does give you a little bit more. And I would also say, on the next part of that, even if you don't use them, go out and get the social media handles for that name as well. So so go out and get it on all the social media platforms you can get it on. That would be the next recommendation for that I have.
Yeah, and that wasn't planned for us to talk about, but when you mentioned that, I said, and we'll probably do another show, kind of instructional, because a lot of people are getting into this game, and it's
Yes.
important. All the things you just said is important. And when you talk about trademarks, we had a trademark attorney on the Boston Cough Talk one time, and she talked about how it can get sticky. For people that go way back like me, they can remember this group called the Moments, and they kept singing together, but they had to change the name to Ray Goodman and Brown because the person owned the name of the Moments. And everything that came out that the Moments thing, that they were still getting money, but they couldn't actually sing under the under the group
Right.
name that they were the particular artist. It happened with the Jacksons. It happened with Prince. It happened with and it's a little different, but it's the same type of thing you're talking about, owning your domain name and leading up to trademark or whatever. However big you get, the bigger you get, the more you'll need to have that, because it can just be a slight uh, similar name, just like you say Slim, and they could come with Him Nation. and
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
just throw people off completely. So it's important. So I'm glad you said that. We'll do another show and go into more detail about putting something like that together. But Lee, I really
That sounds good.
appreciate you, and I know you started out in the beginning with the deer thing. How 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 far does that deer name go back? Have you ever researched how far that goes back? Does it go back to slavery that you know of?
So my dad is the person that has the best answer for that.
Mhm.
He went on to he loves ancestry. He loves ancestry, and the answer that so my dad was actually adopted. So
Mhm.
the deer name is actually was from his adopted family.
Okay, okay. Now, I
So
mean, it's the first time I hear somebody's last name Deer. First time.
and
If I did, I didn't
it's
pay attention. And the way it's
oh
spelled
yeah.
too, like Mother
Right.
Deer.
And I met this is interesting because I never I so there's not a lot of deers that I know of,
Mhm.
but um there well and there's a but here I was in an office match when I in Virginia Beach, and there's a family that named Deer. And the daughter was like, "Why do you have my name on the back of your shirt, on your jacket?" I had that was when I was going. My company name was Mr. The other company name, my parent company name was Mr. Deer Shot Me, and I had that on my shirt. And we started talking, and our mother quickly rushed her away. So when as I explained it, no, I'm my last name is Deer, and that's my name too, and and we so my family, my dad and my family and all that stuff, we proudly wear it. We own that name. We owned it, and we went out and did once again. We went out and got um, bought the domain name leedeer.com. We
Right.
bought the domain. So we bought the domain name, and
Not taking any
that's
chances. Hey,
so we have that.
no, the reason I asked you about going back to slavery, because a lot of times slavery, once they were freed, a lot of slaves changed their names, the last names from the master's name, and some of them just made up names, and that they registered later. And I didn't know if that was somebody say, okay, well, I don't want to be a Jackson anymore. That was my master's name. How about Deer? So I was
And
just curious about that because it's such
and
it's kind of different. Yeah.
I can see that, and I don't know the whole like I said, I definitely I'll follow that up with my dad and be able to tell you a little bit more because I'm sure he definitely has a story. I'm sure he's come across a story about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. That got me. Well, thanks for all the information that you shared with us today, and hope to
Thank
have you
you.
back and talk about
Yes.
all the other things you're doing and appreciate it and hope we can get together, maybe have lunch one day and talk about some other things about the photography and things like that. Some things that I want to do with my channel that you might be able to advise me on, or you know let me know
I'll
what I
be
need to be doing to take it to another level. So,
I'll be happy to help. Anything I can do, please feel free to reach out.
all right, brother, I appreciate you. And one more time, tell people how they can get in touch with you with the mobile photography. And I guess you're working on making sure the book is still available out there, right?
Yes, it is. I'll verify it. I'll just verify and make sure it's completely available because I set it up and put it and life started happening,
Yeah,
and every now and again I'll still I know it's available because every now and again I'll see somebody will get it and I'll get that nice little ding, from Amazon and all that stuff. But
yeah,
yes, so you can
yeah.
find me if you got most of the stuff, most of the updates and stuff like that, you can go to mobilephoolab.com. That's the photography website. That's where the majority of all my information is. All the updated information about what's happening in Fort Smith and our great city. You can find that on Fort Smith. Good News Portsmouth.
Mhm.
That's what we're goodnewsportsmith.com. So that's where most of the stuff there. And then with the book, you can check it out at getmovingagain.com. So tons of domain names.
Yeah,
But I can send you all of those and all that stuff, and we'll put in the comments when I share it. I'll share those domain names as well.
yeah, yeah. Well, send that to me, and I'll make sure I put it out on the page because usually after these shows, I make shorts. I make YouTube shorts out of them, to get those capture those little things that we say. And a lot of times that leads people to watch the full video. But once I make them and put them out there, I also put the other information out there so people know how to contact you in all your domains.
Thank you.
Well,
I
thanks a lot.
appreciate it.
Thanks for hanging with me while the doctors came in while you were sitting out there. But we appreciate
Right.
you, brother. We appreciate
Thank you.
you,
I
and
have been enlightened this time.
yeah, and I'm glad I met you. And like I said, I believe everything happens for a reason, and
Yes, sir.
we were meant to have this conversation, and hopefully we have plenty more. And like I said, we'll have some opportunity to get together in person.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Okay, take care. And thanks everybody for watching, and make sure that if you watch on our YouTube channel that you like, subscribe, make your comments, and share this information with someone else. And let us know how you like the show. And we'll see you next time. Take care.